The reasons why Mehmet II conquered Constantinople. Constantinople was a threat to the Ottoman Empire's territorial integrity because it was located in the middle of the Turkish lands in Europe and in Asia. The Byzantium Empire didn't let the Ottoman army pass through the Bosphorus to the European side. The Byzantium Empire also supported the Crusader army. Constantinople had an important location both for land commerce and maritime commerce. Constantinople was the opening gate of the Silk Road to Europe. Mehmet II also wanted to fulfill the prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad, who said, "Verily, you shall conquer Constantinople. What a wonderful commander he will be, and what a wonderful army will that army be." The preparations. Istanbul had been a valuable target because of its geopolitical position. Preparation for the conquest of Constantinople, known as Istanbul today, started in 1452. Huge cannons that were necessary for the Great Siege were molded by the Hungarian master Orban. These cannons, which were cast in 3 months, were called Shahi, or Dardanelles gun. The Dardanelles gun is a super cannon designed as a bombard for use in siege warfare. The gun weighs 16.8 tons and measures 17 feet in length, with a diameter of just under 3.5 feet, and it fired a massive marble shot at a range of 1.5 miles. Rumeli Castle, on the European side, was constructed to gain control of the waterway and sever Byzantium's communications with the Black Sea, as well as to assure the passage of Ottoman troops from Anatolia to Europe. High towers with wheels, which were fire-resistant because of the mud and cattle skin around them, were constructed. A mighty fleet of 16 galleys were formed. The number of soldiers were doubled, the supply routes to Byzantine were taken under control, and finally an agreement was made with Genoese to keep Galata neutral during the war. As precautions against the Turkish attack, the first thing Byzantium did was to repair the city walls. The capital was most important because when they lost Istanbul, the empire would vanish. At the entrance to the Golden Horn Gulf, there was a large chain pulled across from Constantinople to the Tower of Galata on the northern side, preventing unwanted ships from entering. Byzantium asked for help from Europe, but to no avail. In April 1453, the first Ottoman frontier forces were seen in front of the city. The siege was starting. The conquest. Despite his young age, Sultan Mehmet II, with a remarkable genius, ruled over the empire and took great military and administrative measures. He took several precautions, both in and out of state, to prepare for the siege of Constantinople. Constantinople had been the capital of the Byzantine Empire for centuries and had been attacked many times in the past, but its great walls always prevailed. Sultan Mehmet II changed this with the use of cannons forever. The city was bombarded with cannons designed by Sultan Mehmet II himself. The Sultan's massive cannons fired on the walls for weeks. Under the orders of Sultan Mehmet II, the Kapudan Pasha Baltoğlu Süleyman Bey, Commander-in-Chief of the Navy, launched the first attack to enter the Golden Horn Gulf, known today as Haliç, on April 9, 1453. Unfortunately, the attack failed to break the chains which were placed at the mouth of the Gulf. This chain, which floated on wooden logs, was strong enough to prevent any Ottoman ships from entering the Golden Horn Gulf. The battle between the Ottoman and Genoese ships, and not being able to break the chains, lowered the morale of the Ottoman Empire. Regardless of the chaos and widespread feeling of loss throughout the army, the Sultan's spiritual mentor, Akşemseddin, promised certain victory of the conquest. Realizing that Constantinople would not be conquered unless the Gulf was taken, Sultan Mehmet II started to design a new and improved weapon called the humbara, known today as the howitzer cannon. This new discovery marked an important achievement in world military history. The new cannon allowed for projectiles to be propelled with small propellant charges over very high trajectories with a steep angle of descent. Encouraged by spiritual support, Sultan Mehmet II revised his plans for the naval attack. The Ottoman fleet, anchored in Dolmabahce, would be moved to the Golden Horn Gulf by land as an element of surprise. Several ships and galleys, carried by soldiers via rope, were slid over slipways. On the morning of April 22nd, the Eastern Roman Empire woke up with a surprise and was terrified when they saw Ottoman galleys in the Horn. 70 ships, carried by cows and balanced by hundreds of soldiers via ropes, were slid over slipways. By the afternoon, the ships were already inside the well-protected bay. The siege lasted from Friday, April 6, 1453, until May 29, 1453, on a Tuesday, when the city was finally conquered by the Ottomans under the command of Sultan Mehmed II. The results of the conquest in Turkish history. After the conquest, the 21-year-old Ottoman Sultan took the title the Conqueror and added it to his name. With this conquest, the Ottomans proceeded to establish hegemony over numerous independent Turkish states and became an empire, granting its territorial integrity. The reputation of the Ottoman Empire in the Islamic world also increased. Istanbul became the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. The trade routes coming from the Black Sea and ending in Istanbul were now under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The results of the conquest in world history. This battle marked the end of the Byzantine Empire, an empire which had lasted for over 1,100 years. A new era started in the world, and a new balance came with the conquest of Constantinople. It marked the end of the Middle Age and the beginning of the Modern Age. Many Greeks fled the city and migrated to other parts of Europe, in particular Italy, taking with them valuable manuscripts regarding advanced intellectual developments. These intellectuals played a key role in the movement to revive and revise classical Greek culture. This move is thought to have helped fuel the Renaissance. After the capture of Constantinople by the Turks, even the land routes were cut off. Now it became essential for Europeans to find new and safe routes to Asia, because European trade flourished with Asia. It is thought that the conquest of Istanbul played a role in geographical discoveries as new trade routes began to be discovered. After the conquest, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror started the process of rebuilding the city after its conquest. He arranged the city without damaging the fabric and structure of the city with his unique knowledge of Western culture. Before the conquest, Istanbul was a dead city. Mehmed the Conqueror strove with great energy to make the city once again into the political and economic center of an empire. The very first act of the conqueror was to have the famous temple Hagia Sophia restored. To its repair and to the salaries of those employed in it, he allocated extensive pious foundations. He renovated and restored the church and converted it into a mosque. He ordered the construction of a bazaar, which is now known as the Grand Bazaar, to provide income for the Hagia Sophia Mosque. He built the Topkapi Palace, which was used as both the official residence of the Sultan, the sole owner of the empire, and as the center of official state affairs. Istanbul, in the conqueror's very lifetime, was adorned with villas, bazaars, khans, baths, colleges, and assumed the aspect of a flourishing, active Turkish city. He gathered Italian artists, humanists, and Greek scholars at his court, kept the Byzantine church functioning, ordered the patriarch to translate the Christian faith into Turkish, and called Gentile Bellini from Venice to paint his portrait. Mehmed II also brought Muslim scientists and artists to his court in Istanbul and founded the very first university, which is still present today, known as Istanbul University. Mehmed II's reign is also very well known for the religious tolerance with which he treated his subjects, especially among the conquered Christians, which was very unusual for Europe in the Middle Ages.